Hi, everybody. It's so great to get back together with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and join this little space of Hemanti Be'ez Hashem, where, hi, great to see your faces and great to see your name servers on. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. It really fills my heart with such joy and love to see your faces and to see everybody who's come on. Thank you for joining. Okay, we're getting ready for Matan Torah over here, B'siyata Dishmaya, and we'll hear some words from Reb Asher Zecher Tzadik Livracha of how we can prepare ourselves for receiving the Torah. I'm sure everybody has all of their holy ways, and I'm sure that we've all been listening to all kinds of ideas and eitzes and shivim panim Torah. There are 70 different faces of the Torah, and everything that we've heard is all right. And I think I know that I get so much chizuk from looking into the path of Reb Asher and sharing the inspiration of Reb Asher and his way. For me, any questions that I had about personality, about soul, about our job in this world, about what's our mission, they're all solved when I look into the writings and teachings of Reb Asher. And so that's why, for me, I've chosen that he's my Rebbe when it comes to the Torah of the soul and anything that I look up. And I hope that you will agree that his insights are fascinating, and also they give me so much chizuk, and I hope that we will come away today also strengthened for the upcoming Yom Tov B'siyata Dishmaya. So it begins this part talking about a story that happened, an anecdote that happened in Poland with the tzaddik Shlomo of Radomsk, that in his old age was very old, and he was the leader of thousands of Hasidim in Poland. He picked up and left. He announced that he was going to be going to spend the Yom Tov of Shavuos with the tzaddik of Chaim of Tzanz, and it caused major upheaval amongst all of the Hasidim. And his son said to him, "Tati, what are you doing? Tens of thousands of Hasidim are waiting to celebrate Shavuos with you and to come here. Why are you picking yourself up and going to Tzanz? You're going to be wrecking the yontif of all of these Hasidim who are planning on coming to you." He never in his life had gone to other rebbes. That wasn't the way. As we know today, is usually most rebbes are in their own court. They make their own tish. They guide their own Hasidim in their own court. It's almost unheard of for elderly tzaddikim to pick themselves up and go off to other tzaddikim for a yontif. It's as unheard of today as it was then. Rosh Shlomo Radomsk turned to his son and said, "You see this white beard? You see my old beard? You see how old I am?" He said, "I am thirsting and I'm longing to experience the taste of Kabbalas Torah. I want to taste what it feels like to truly receive the Torah. And I'll be able to do that by the tzaddik of Chaim Tzanz. I want it for myself." He said, "I have to go and do this." So, Erev Shavuos, the two tzaddikim met and talked, Shlomo of Radomsk and of Chaim Tzanz. And they sat and they talked and they stayed together for a holy conversation before Yom Tov Shavuos. Afterwards, the tzaddik of Tzanz, who was hosting again the Rebbe of Radomsk, said to his close confidants, "See, the tzaddik of Radomsk is already ready for Kabbalas Torah, but I didn't even start feeling even a thousandth of the holiness of the Torah." That's what Chaim Tzanz said of himself. And the tzaddik of Radomsk said similar things to his Hasidim who had come with him about the tzaddik of Tzanz. The tzaddik of Chaim of Tzanz is already ready for Yontif, but I haven't even begun the journey. The Hasidim from that period of time who were there for Shavuos said that they felt physically on their flesh, they felt at the davening of that Yontif what it's written about Matan Torah, that the whole people trembled in the camp. They felt such an experience of receiving the Torah like had never been felt before in the presence of these two holy rebbes. Rav Asher explains that the purpose, the mission of a tzaddik, of a true tzaddik in this world, is to be a conduit, to be a channel to bring down the Torah. And even after Matan Torah, even after Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Torah, we cannot receive the Torah unless we have a person to be a medium for bringing us the halacha. We, as a regular person, man, woman, or child, cannot open the Chumash and decide the halacha from the Chumash. We have to go according to the oral law. And even with the oral law, you have to understand the 13 laws through which the halacha is decided. And you have to understand how to use them. You've got the tzaddikim who read the written words and they came out and they messed up the halacha in their own way. And then you have other people who ignored the Torah shebichtav, the written, the oral law, and all of the ways with which halacha is supposed to be interpreted. And they interpret things the way that they want. They just pick up a chumash and decide. We need to have the true tzaddikim who understand how to learn the halachas out of the Sfarim. So we need to be connected to a true tzaddik who knows how to interpret and teach and give over the Torah that was given at Har Sinai, just as Moshe Rabbeinu was the conduit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have given the Torah to every single Jew. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that there would be a tzaddik who would be the conduit. And so we know our generation also need that conduit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the koyach to give, to be that vehicle, to be the vessel through which and the channel through which we receive the Torah. The tzaddik of Radomsk wrote in his Sefer Tiferes Shlomo the ways, and this is what he wrote about Shavuos. He says, Yom echad hoisif Moshe midasai, that Moshe Rabbeinu, it's written down, Chazal say, that Moshe Rabbeinu added on one day of the 40 days, he added on a day from his own understanding. And Rav Shlomo Radomsk asks, how could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu would push off by one day this day that he'd been waiting for, that the whole Shemayim and Aretz, the heavens and the earth, had been waiting from the beginning of creation for the day that the Torah was going to be given to Klal Yisrael? As it says, Bereshis Bishvil Yisrael, the very first word of the Torah. Why was Bereshis? Why did it happen? For Klal Yisrael, for the Kabbalah of the Torah. Everything had been waiting for that day. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu push off that one day? And he answers, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show the koyach of the tzaddik, that his goyz and Hashem is masking with him, that Hashem wanted to show that Moshe Rabbeinu had in his hands the capacity to say one more day, and that Hashem would agree, because that's how Hashem has created the tzaddikim throughout the generations. And again, as we find always when we read the words of Reb Asher, we understand that this is what happened. Moshe, that Reb Asher himself was a tzaddik goyz of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. That in so many instances, Reb Asher would say about different horrible diseases, Sigonish, it's nothing, and they would disappear and they would truly be nothing. There were miracle stories after miracle stories about how he was able to save people in so many different ways. One incredible story took place in Yerushalayim. There was a young man who got married, and he came to Reb Asher and he asked him some question, and Reb Asher said to him, you have to go into Golus for 3 years. This man moved to America, and Rav Asher said, you have to actually live in Golus. You mustn't live at home. You mustn't sleep at home. You have to move every night. At least you shouldn't stay in the same place even 3 nights. You have to keep moving and go different places. And he said it was too hard for him. What can I do? He contacted different Gedolim in Yerushalayim at the time, and each one said, Rav Asher, we don't want to mess with Rav Asher. If Rav Asher says, we don't want to do something. And finally, this man contacted somebody else in another Rav in Yerushalayim. I won't say who this Rav was. And this Rav said, in our generation, we don't have people who are capable of being goyzer golus on somebody You don't have to go into Golos. And so this person breathed a big sigh of relief and went home. A few years later, there was a terrible accident. This man's son, Lo Aleinu, passed away in a terrible accident. And there was a sense among all of the followers that Reb Osher had seen it and he had known, and he'd tried to save this person's son by telling him that this is what he needed to do. And he resisted it. He didn't want to do what Reb Osher said. And unfortunately, whatever happened is what happened. This was the gadlus of Reb Osher. Reb Osher saw all around the world people. One day, one of his Talmidim in America was shouting at his son for something. All of a sudden, the phone rang. This chassid picked up the phone, and Reb Osher said, "Your shouting at your son is bothering my tefillah. Can you please stop shouting at your child?" The person, he started shaking in his shoes. That from America, right? That Reb Osher could hear him yelling at his child. So this was who Reb Osher was. So when we learn the teachings of Reb Osher, have to understand that the tzaddik is goyes and a Kodesh Baruch is mekayim. He was an exceptionally rare individual that even the Gedolim of Yerushalayim of his time didn't want to meddle with things that he said, and even one who did meddle with what he said, unfortunately, was not on the same level to really understand who Reb Osher was and the capacity that he had to decide on so many things, because he had a heavenly view more than existed with even people of his generation. So when Reb Osher describes the capacity of a tzaddik, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Moshe Rabbeinu the permission to push off Matan Torah for one whole day, in order to teach all of us that the power of a tzaddik, and that this is with Hashem's permission. So that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the permission. And this is the level that Klal Yisrael achieved even before Matan Torah, as it says, "V'gam b'cha yaminu lo'elam," that Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, they will believe in you as well. That they'll also believe in the Nevi'im habayim acharecha. This is what Rashi says. That Klal Yisrael has then the capacity to believe in all of the Nevi'im. That from this belief that we had in Moshe Rabbeinu, became entrenched within every one of us. The capacity to believe we are maminim b'nei maminim. We are believers, the children and the descendants of believers. We're all believers. We believe in our hearts. And the Sfas Emes says that we all have the capacity for belief that doesn't end. Emunah is endless. There is no end to Emunah. We received from Avram Avinu, from Yitzchak Avinu, from Yaakov Avinu, we received Emunah from them. It is our Yerusha. It is inside us. It's kind of like, I kind of give the example, it was like sleeper cells. Okay, we may not feel them or notice them all the time. We may not even know that we have it, but they exist in potential. And then, when those sleeper cells are awakened, whatever it takes to awaken those sleeper cells, then they become active. What do we need? We need to just he'emanti ki adaber. How do we waken up those sleeper cells? We begin to talk it out. We come in a community of people and we start talking about our emunah. We talk to our children about emunah. The more we talk emunah, the more we're going to feel emunah. So that way, we be'ezah Hashem will grow in emunah. So not only do we have emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we have, through what we gained in Matan Torah, we have emunah in Moshe Rabbeinu. And we have emunah in all of the tzaddikim and the nevi'im that came after Moshe Rabbeinu. This we received at Har Sinai. We received, and even before Matan Torah, we received that capacity for emunah. And then Reb Osher finishes this little piece with the main lesson he wants us to take away from this. V'yisyatzvu b'tachtis hahar. And Klal Yisrael stood. Really, lehitziyatzev, it doesn't just mean standing. It means like standing at attention, standing for a purpose. They were gathered and standing for the purpose at the bottom of Har Sinai, b'tachtis hahar, at the very bottom of the mountain of Har Sinai. When were they zoichet to Kabbalas Torah? When were they actually worthy of receiving the Torah? The tzaddik of Radomsk, who we've just heard this story about, the tzaddik Shlomo of Radomsk said, when כשמכניעים ומבטלים את עצמם ומרים בדעתם שעדיין עומדים הם בתחתית המדרגה. When they lower themselves and when they nullify themselves and when they show with their conscious decision that they are still standing at the very lowest level. They feel about themselves and they understand about themselves that they're just beginning their journey in Avodas Hashem. They don't come, here I am, I'm the big Gadol, I'm the one that knows it all. I'm ready to, I could tell you a thing or two. I've been around this block. I know everything. That's the opposite. Okay, but when they come with the humility and the bittul and the total subservience to Das Torah and the humility of saying, I don't know, I want to know, I want to begin this journey. As this beautiful anecdote shows that Rav Shlomo of Radomsk, the tzaddik, an aged tzaddik, leader of hundreds of Hasidim, said, I want to go and learn Torah. I need it for myself. I don't know Torah. And he goes to the other tzaddik and he says, oh, this other tzaddik is already so ready. He saw in the other tzaddik the preparation and the knowledge. He fargined and he saw in the good in the other, how much Torah the other one had. But he saw how poor he was. He was willing to look and see how little he knew. And the other tzaddik, from his perspective, did the same thing back. He saw in the Radomska that he was so ready and that he was prepared. And yet Rav Chaim Sander himself also said, where am I? I haven't even started the journey myself. And these were the two elder tzaddikim. And yet they each nullified themselves to the other in such a beautiful example of humility. This explains the Radomska, is the key to receiving the Torah. That's how they received the Torah. That was when Klal Yisrael was zocher to see the Torah, when they were misyatsev, when they stood themselves at the bottom of the mountain. They didn't say, well, we've been through all of the plagues. We've learned so much Torah. We know the ways of Hashem. We've seen all of this. But they were willing to say, we are absolutely at the beginning of this journey. We're in the desert. Everything is like, this is the ground zero of Avodas Hashem. Ground zero. And whatever we are, we allow ourselves to bend down and be at nothing, and we look inside ourselves and say, where am I? What have I got? Not with a sense of sadness or despair in any way, not putting ourselves down, but on the contrary, with the cheshek to begin. That's what we learn from these two tzaddikim. That their cheshek, their desire, their longing, their wanting, how intensely they desired to move forward in Torah, and how much they wanted to achieve in understanding Hashem and in receiving the Torah within themselves, to have the taste of what it means to receive the Torah, and how they felt, I don't even know what it is. The Torah is so great, and so I feel within myself that I don't even have a tiny bit of it, the capacity to look inside themselves and see what so much was missing, but yet not to blame for that, not to blame themselves, but on the contrary to say, we want to fill, to come with the desire for that. That is the empty space within which the Torah could be given, in the middle of the midbar. And through this, in the middle of this, they sought, and through recognizing that they didn't have it, through recognizing that they were just starting out on their journey, and then through wanting and desiring the Torah that was given, then they were able to get the Torah. The Adkan Reb Asher. The Divrei Yisrael of Mojitz says similar Torah over and over and over again. He mentions the same thing, that as long as a person thinks, I've got, I'm here, I know, as long as a person thinks that, they haven't even begun the journey of Torah and learning and Kirvas Elokim and coming close to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The only way to begin the journey is to recognize, I don't have Every day should be a new beginning, a new start. I don't have anything. I'm now prepared to go on. I don't have, this is where I'm beginning. This is where I'm starting from. Anything I have is a gift. And we're not going to nullify we're not going to say that we don't have, the point is not to say that we're, to put ourselves down, okay? But it's to recognize that since the Torah is endless, let's understand how we can come to that feeling now, okay? How we can come to that, the essence of that feeling. The Torah is endless. There is no end to the Torah. And there is no end to Hashem. And there is no end to the Neshama of Klal Yisrael. Because the Neshama of Klal Yisrael is the Chelek Elokam Mimal. It's the place where the Shekhinah dwells. So all of these things are endless. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael and the Torah. Three things that are eternal and that have no beginning and have no end. So the experience of something finite, okay, a plastic cup, is, you've got it. You see it. It is what it is. The experience of something finite, even if you grasp some of it, it's still finite. So what have you got? You haven't got 1 part of a million. You haven't got 1 part of 10 million. If you grab onto some of it, you haven't got 1 part of 50,000 million, right? Rav Pinkus once gave an analogy. Either he gave the analogy or he brought down an analogy of what eternity, how we can imagine eternity. He said, imagine a massive, massive, massive storage room, the biggest kind of room or palace that you could ever imagine. And imagine that it's filled with grains of wheat, okay? Grains of wheat filling a huge, enormous palace. It's filled with, from floor till ceiling, with grains of wheat. And imagine that once in a million years, a bird comes and takes 1 grain. Okay? How long is it going to take to empty the palace? Just imagine, if you want to imagine time as eternity. The human mind cannot fathom it. And we say the animam in some communities, our communities, some communities have the minute to say the 13 animamins on Shavuos. One of the animamins is that we believe, animamin b'emunah shlema, we believe with perfect faith that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ein lo guf, v'lo yesiguhu masigi guf, ein lo shum dimyon klal, that we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no physicality, no physical essence at all, and that no physical essence can grasp a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And there's no way to imagine a Kadosh Baruch Hu in any way. We believe that. That's one of the essential fundamentals of Emunah that the Rambam put for us into the 13 Animamins. So we can't grasp a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We can't even grasp time and space. So if we grasp, if we take 1 of those grains, if we're a bird that takes 1 of those grains, do we have a grasp of all of those grains? We would surely understand that if we've even eaten 5 of those grains, we've had the zchus to eat 5 of those grains, let's say, that represents the depth of Torah learning, we would understand we've only just begun. There is so much. Even a person who has spent their entire life trying to grow in Torah and Avodas Hashem, when faced with such an enormous feast of wheat, would recognize, I've only just begun. And so when we can imagine for ourselves the enormous essence of eternity, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and of the Torah, and of our own souls of Klal Yisrael, which are within us, when we can tune into that eternal essence, we can, Be'ezras Hashem, realize that we're also just on the miftan. We're also just on the doorstep of the hall of Avodas Hashem. We're just beginning. We've only just stepped in. And it's a beautiful place to be. It's not a place of guilt or blame or shame or self-flagellation that we didn't do more. It's a place of excitement and curiosity, and the world is open before me. And look what we now have the opportunity to step into, even more of this. And lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. Our job is not to eat a palace full of wheat that's from floor till ceiling. That's not our job. Our job is not to munch our way through it all. Baruch Hashem. Aval gam, ben chorim nitpater mimenu, but we're not free to say, I'm going to leave it all for somebody else to take care of. Our job is to go and be the bird that flies into that palace and takes the seed that's for us, the part of the Torah that is ours. And every person has a different chelik in Torah. Every Jewish soul has a different chelik elokam mimal. We're all different. We're all unique. We all have a specific mission in this world. We're all supposed to be revealing a different aspect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so, just as it's written that every yid has a letter in the Torah that corresponds to their soul, what it means is we have an aspect of the Torah that we're supposed to be revealing. And only through delving into whatever the Torah is that interests us, whatever that area of Avodas Hashem is. For some people it's halacha, for Jewish law. For some people it's hashkafa. For some people it's Jewish thought. For some people it's doing chesed. You know, the women who decided that they're going to go, and I have women in my community, there are many women in other communities, that they decide that they're going to organize Shabbos meals and Yontif meals for the wives whose husbands are in Miluim. They may be non-religious families. Their husbands are out protecting us. And there are women in many religious communities who've taken it upon themselves from the beginning of the war, a year and a half already. Every Shabbos and Yontif, they organize their community to prepare meals for the families of those who are serving. What a beautiful chesed. It's Torah's chesed al l'shayna. That's one of the most vital Jewish women's mitzvahs is chesed. As I forget the name of the gadol who says that his wife's chelek in chesed is much greater than his, because he only gives tzedakah, he gives the money, but his wife gives ready-made food that can be immediately eaten and enjoyed, and so her chelek is greater. Each one of us has as our chelek, which is greater than everybody else's, simply because it's ours, not because we're better, but because it's uniquely ours. And how do we know what it is? Well, our life circumstances are guiding us to the specific questions in Torah that we need to ask. We may not have ever thought that we would have to ask the kinds of questions that we had to ask in our lives. During the Shoah, there were awful questions asked, questions about lives and the brachas to say upon dying al Kiddush Hashem, questions that were asked that certainly nobody ever wanted to have to ask those kinds of questions. And yet a particular aspect of Jewish law came out because those questions that were asked. Wherever we are in life and whatever we're going through in life and whatever challenge or whatever situation comes up, and we ask those questions, there are questions that are being asked of our Rabbanim that no one ever would have dreamed that these questions could be asked, and they're all achelek from Torah. And these people who are asking these questions are attaching themselves to a tzaddik who is bringing down Torah's Moshe Rabbeinu to us through all the generations by asking these questions and revealing the aspects of Torah that need to be revealed through us, through living it, through doing the chesed, through living it, through revealing the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our interactions, through learning the Torah of how in this particular situation, how we're supposed to be acting and how to fulfill the halacha in exactly this situation, whatever it is. When we tell stories of tzaddikim, when we learn the ways of tzaddikim, when we try, we don't have to feel bad about being on just starting out on the journey. We can feel grateful, we can feel excited, we can feel curious and ready to begin this journey, energized and empowered by the fact that there's a specific journey in Torah, that each of us has our own specific journey. No one else can do it for us. And we're about to embark on that journey. That's what we're doing on Yontif, Be'ezah Hashem. And the Shabbos before Shavuos, the Shabbos before Shavuos is, it's okay. No one has to be on camera this time. It's okay. I'm so glad that you can be here. I'm so glad that you can be here now. You don't need to have a camera for this class, and everybody's welcome to come however you want. The Shabbos before any Yontif, is where, before anything, not just the Yom Tov, but the Shabbos is where all of the hashpahs, all of the influence for that time comes down. And so the Shabbos, this Shabbos before Shavuos, is where the blessing is coming down for each one of us to tune into our own unique journey. And it's okay to feel that we haven't gotten anywhere in our own journeys. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the feeling that Rosh Shlomo Domske and Rav Chaim Sanz's Zechet Tzadikim Livracha, how they felt that they hadn't even started on their own journey. So if we feel a little bit that we haven't really done our journey yet, we're supposed to feel that we're right on schedule if we're feeling that. It's appropriate and proper that we feel, I haven't even done it yet. What can I do? So we don't have to fight that feeling, but we can embrace that feeling. That's how Rav Asher encourages us so much. We don't have to feel that we did something wrong if we don't feel good enough, and that we have to bolster ourselves and say, no, I've done enough. I've always done enough. You know what? We're just starting out on our journey of Avodas Hashem, and that's exactly where we need to be. And when we stand, and whether it's on Shavuos or on Yom Tov, and we don't have to be in shul in order to receive the Torah. We don't have to be part of a minyan. But if we put our mind, our hearts into an intention that Ribono Shel Olam, we want to start out on the journey of our own personal Avodas Hashem. Guide me on that journey. Help me on that journey. Help me receive my chelik in Torah. Help me get that one wheat seed that I'm supposed to fly into that palace. And all of Klal, so we're all taking our own seeds. We're not gonna fly away from our job, but we're going to Be'ez Hashem. Get ready and be curious about our mission and connect with other people. As Rav Shlomo Radomski said, I want to be the tzaddik of tzans. Find those people with whom you can connect, who will inspire you, who will give you a taste of what it means to receive the Torah. And this Shabbos Be'ez Hashem, let's decide we want to be here. We want to start on our own journey. Each one of us, wherever we are now, we want to start on our journey. Help us take the steps. And let's just understand what it means, one step. Sometimes we have this idea that only a massive step will help. Only an enormous leap will be good enough. And the truth is that nothing could be further from the truth. An enormous leap feels scary. We have the Yetzer Hara is going to give us tremendous resistance to take an enormous leap. And sometimes taking an enormous leap, we think, well, maybe not today. I'll keep pushing it off. Maybe tomorrow I'll take the enormous leap. It feels like just too unsurmountable to take an enormous leap. But if we say, you know what, I'm going to take not even a whole step. I'm going to take a half a step. Whatever that half step feels like to the beginning of my journey. I'm going to be willing to stand on the threshold. I'm not even going to go in. I'm just going to stand on the threshold and say, okay, I'm ready to think about going under the threshold. Just to begin a tiny step. That could be more powerful than any enormous leaps. Because a person, if they take an enormous leap, they might say, well, I can't do that again. It was just too big. And maybe I'll have to actually go back because it was too hard. Now I've taken this enormous leap, I'm just going to have to rest for so long. There are all kinds of reasons why an enormous leap could actually backfire. When a person takes a tiny, tiny step, the tiniest possible increment that they could imagine, and they take that step and then they say, you know what? I actually did that. I actually could do that tiny step. It was okay. I took the tiny step. I'm still here. It's okay. It's actually a tiny step that I chose it because it was something I feel I can do, and I'm still here and I can do it. This encourages us that we could take another one when we're ready. And we think, okay, you know what? This could actually work. I could actually do one tiny step more. And then whenever we're ready, whether it took us a week or 3 weeks or a month, and we take another tiny, tiny, tiny step, you know what? It's sustainable. We can take that next step. And so a tiny step becomes the path to make many, many, many tiny steps because they're sustainable, because they were chosen carefully, because we think that we could actually do it and sustain it, and it's true to who I am, and it feels like the right step for me. And so there's so much less resistance to doing something tiny The only resistance is the Yetzer Hara that says, ah, it's not good enough. So we have to realize that's what the Yetzer Hara wants us to say. He wants us to go running into into that palace, over the threshold, running in, and then feeling lost that we've overstepped more than we can actually do. But when we take some of that humble pie and we say, I can take a tiny, tiny step. I can be on the threshold. I can be at the beginning, and it doesn't matter how long I stay in the beginning. If I'm here, it's a good place to be. The holy place where I'm standing is holy, said the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Wherever we're standing is holy. And if we take one tiny increment in, that's also holy as well. And if we're still in the threshold, great. But I'm still here. I'm at the door still. I'm at the holy door. And if I need to stay at the holy door for a while, that's where I'm going to stay. So let's go into the Shabbos and into the Yontif, ready to be on the threshold, ready to stand at the doorway, humbly knowing that we're just beginning our journey. Because now we recognize that whatever we've done before, compared to what there is, and we don't have to finish it all, but compared to what there is, it is relatively nothing. And it's okay that we know relatively nothing, because there's so much to know, we don't have to finish it. So it gives us the freedom to not know, to be at the beginning, to be, as it says, we're supposed to try, and every day needs to be like our clothes are white. Every day it should be like it's new. We can go in with a freshness, with a newness, and embrace the fact of not knowing, and embrace the fact of being at the beginning. And it's okay that we don't know and that we're starting out. That's a beautiful, wonderful place to be. We don't have to pretend to anybody that we know more than we know. And Be'ez Hashem, we will all be in that place, and we can all join together, because the souls of Am Yisrael are truly one. And the Talmud Devorah says that there's a part of everyone's soul in our soul, and there's a part of our soul in every soul of Klal Yisrael. And when we are humbly able to do that and say, what I know is nothing compared to what there is in Torah and Avodah and Yerushalayim and Avodah Hashem, that part of me that's within every single other yid is going to also be affected to be able to be makabel the Torah. And so in that way, we can actually empower all Klal Yisrael to receive the Torah, and anybody else who is also doing that. We embrace within ourselves whatever other people have embraced. Anybody want to add or share anything? I'd love to hear from you, holy, wonderful women who have joined here together. Anybody want to unmute and share a thought or add something? I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure everybody else would love to hear from you if you like. I understand so many people may not be in places where you can unmute or where you can share, but if anybody would like to before we end.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Caller.
Hi.
Hi, Hinda. It was so great to hear your dear voice, and it was really very encouraging and very uplifting. And I'm so glad that you put it for Thursday night before the Shabbos, before Shavuos, because I didn't know that concept of the Shabbos before Yom Tov. Like I'm going into Shabbos so different and into Shavuos so different. And Hashem shall bless you many times over. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, so great to hear you. Thank you. Thank you for speaking up. I really appreciate that. Lovely to hear your voice. Anybody else want to share or say anything, add something? Okay, I want to wish everybody a beautiful Yontif, a wonderful Gavaldika, Kabbalah Torah, and let's all join hands and start together. Be'ez Hashem. Let's just step on the first step. Thank you so much. Good Shabbos. Good Yontif.